The first 3 Discworld books did well enough to warrant future installments. They did alright, but they weren't bestsellers, and after Equal Rights, Terry Pratchett was thinking of changing gears and delving into science fiction. However, a conversation with his friend Neil Gaiman convinced him to try just one more Discworld book, focusing on the character of Death, who was a favorite of Gaiman's because, come on, of course it was. Of course he was! The resulting book was Mort, and although it was meant as a farewell to Discworld, it ended up breathing new life into the franchise, and Pratchett would continue to explore the Discworld for almost 30 more years. So, what is Mort? Mort is the story of Mort, a spotty, lanky teen who winds up apprenticed to Death. You see, Grim Reaping is a job just like any other, and when you're in charge of every mortal soul on the disc, you need some underlings to help things run smoothly. So, Mort finds himself chosen as the latest helper to Death himself. Things start to go wrong, though, when Mort fails at his first assignment and saves a princess who was due to be assassinated. Thankfully for Mort, Death has decided to vacation in the mortal realm to figure out the appeal of things like drinking, dancing, and gambling. So he may be able to fix all this without alerting his boss. But then again, he may just end up making things worse. And given how Mort is starting to grow colder, paler, and more detached from life, as the world itself begins to unravel, it may not be long before irreparable harm is done to himself and to the universe. How does the world of Mort work? Well, for one thing, this is the first book that takes a deep dive into Death and his domain. While Rincewind briefly visited Death's domain in The Life Fantastic, this is where the place was finalized in appearance as a gloomy but serene extra-dimensional realm. And several landmarks of Death's domain, such as the Lifetimer Room and the Stack, make their first appearance in this book. This finalization of setting also reflects Death's finalization of personality, as this is also the book where Death settles down into the somber, soulful Reaper we would all come to know and love. Death is no longer cruel and malicious, but simply doing his job, and it is a vital and necessary job, part of the fabric of the universe. If he fails at this job, like a certain Mort, then the very universe itself could unwind. Mort. This is also the first time Death starts to explore mortal pleasures like drinking, dancing, and gambling, although not to the same extent as later books. Also reflecting this change are the inhabitants of Death's domain. Mort marks the first appearance of Albert, Death's manservant. Death doesn't really need a manservant, but he likes having Albert around, and Albert in turn is pretty happy with his station, even if he's also a crusty curmudgeon. Isabel, meanwhile, Death's daughter, appears again, although she's completely different from her first appearance in The Light Fantastic. This time, she's a bored and sullen teenager who's read too many romance novels, and one of the reasons Death decided to apprentice Mort was to give her someone her own age to talk to. You can probably guess how this all turns out, but I'm not going to spoil anything. What does Mort have to say? Again, not much, honestly. This is a coming-of-age story, so there's the bog standard, learning to believe in yourself and whatnot, and Death starts to question what it's all about, but Pratchett doesn't really do very much with the coming-of-age format. The main unique quality of Mort's coming-of-age story is that, rather than going on some mystic quest, he gets apprenticed to Death. That's it. That's the joke. And Death's exploration, meanwhile, is mostly there just for humor. Pratchett isn't so much asking us to also question our own mortal lives, but more asking us to chuckle at Death trying to understand concepts which we take for granted. So, even though this has more skillful parody and humor than with earlier books, it's still ultimately a fun romp and not much else. Final verdict. Honestly, I don't know if I can even glean a lesson off Mort. It's just so standard. However, I do think there is a creative lesson to be learned from the various attempts made by Disney in adapting Mort to film, because it reflects a larger trend with regards to Terry Pratchett's writing, which I think is important to discuss. One of Terry's deepest regrets regarding Discworld was how it just never caught on in America. No matter how well he sold, how skillfully he wrote, there would always be so many people who simply did not get it. A common story told by him and associates is how, when Disney approached him to adapt Mort into a film, they went on and on about, "Oh, we love your work, we absolutely love it, and we love everything you're doing, and it's so great, but could we maybe tone down the death aspect, you know? Just tone it down a bit. Such a question betrays a baffling ignorance towards what makes Discworld unique. What makes it work, even. However, that's the thing about writing. No matter how many books you sell or how many awards you win, there will always be people who simply do not get your work. And you just have to accept that. This year, Terry Goodkind passed away. I have never read any of his books, but I do know that he is a deeply controversial figure in the fantasy field, to the point where Daniel Greene refuses to cover any of his works. Here's the thing though. Even if is disgusted by the Sword of Truth and I'm just sort of disinterested, it's very clear from interviews and talks that Goodkind wrote all of his books from the heart. They are deeply personal and, above all else, deeply genuine books. And I think that's how you make your mark as a writer, by being genuine. Even if it doesn't win you awards or put you on the bestseller list, your work is always going to be at its best when it is at its most genuine. Pratchett channeled his genuineness through the Discworld series, and this expression is why we all remember him, and what all of us ultimately seek through our own art. At the end of the day, I have to give Mort a 6 out of 10. But even if it doesn't dazzle me, I can see the genuine Terry Pratchett shine through, and I admire it for that. So, for now, I'm Mark Greene, signing off, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, and you'd like to see me make more, please leave a like or comment down below, share my video via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or other means, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the next one.